Leadership advice often says, know your audience. It sounds obvious. But baked into that advice is an assumption that rarely gets questioned. That anyone who hears your message is your audience. That reach equals relevance. That visibility means connection. It doesn't. Not everyone who hears your message is meant to receive it. Not everyone who sees it will recognize themselves in it. And not everyone who disagrees with it is someone you're meant to convince. This isn't failure, it's an opportunity to refocus. We live in a world that rewards amplification. The louder, the broader, the more visible, the better. Social platforms are built on this logic. Workplace tools reflect it. Even leadership mantras echo it. Expand your reach, cast a wide net, go big. The assumption is that if more people hear you, more people will care. But care is not automatic. It isn't a guaranteed return on visibility. Just because a message travels doesn't mean it moves anyone. But reach, on its own, is a poor measure of resonance. A message designed to hit everyone often hits no one in particular. It floats, it generalizes, it loses the sharp edges that make it recognizable or real. There's a quiet power in stepping back from that pressure, not to retreat, but to refocus. Not to narrow your message out of fear, but to shape it with clarity about who it's for, because the goal isn't to be heard by just anyone, it's to be heard by the people who need it the most. It's tempting to assume that if a message doesn't land, it's because the audience didn't understand it. But more often, the real issue isn't comprehension, it's context. You may be speaking clearly, even passionately, but if the message doesn't meet the listener where they are, if it doesn't intersect with their priorities or timing, it won't resonate. That's not a failure of the message or the audience. It's a reminder that value isn't inherent in what we say. It emerges from how and where the message lands. A powerful idea delivered at the wrong time or in the wrong room can fall flat. Something forgettable in one setting might be transformative in another. The difference is fit. This is why leaders must learn to read more than the words that they've prepared. For example, silence doesn't always mean agreement. Politeness isn't always alignment. Attention doesn't always mean resonance. The most effective communicators are the ones who know when a message hasn't landed and are curious enough to ask why. In organizations, messages ripple. They may begin with a clear audience in mind, but they rarely stay contained. A restructuring memo might be intended for one team, but it will echo through the company. And when that happens, people respond. Not only those directly affected, but those adjacent to the change, those watching from the sidelines, those wondering what it means for them. Leaders can't control those reactions, but they can create space for them. They can clarify who the message was meant for. They can address what's true for others who hear it but weren't named in it. And they can recognize that the audience of a message isn't limited only to its intended recipients. The mistake is trying to smooth it out preemptively until it applies to everyone. The stronger move is to be specific and thoughtful about who else might be listening in. That kind of clarity takes courage. It requires letting go of the need to appease. It means acknowledging that some people will hear what you said and simply won't care, others will. Not because you failed, but because the message wasn't meant for them. Their disinterest or extreme interest isn't resistance, it's disconnection, and that too is something to notice. Resonance happens when someone hears what you're saying and thinks, that's exactly it. That's what I've been trying to name. Resonance doesn't require viral spread or consensus. It needs recognition. It needs emotional alignment. It needs the kind of precision that only happens when a leader speaks into the space their audience already occupies emotionally, intellectually, and even spiritually. And resonance is not the same as reach. Leaders who communicate with resonance aren't trying to impress. They're trying to translate. They're naming things others have felt but haven't had the words for. That kind of communication doesn't need to go far. In order for it to resonate, it needs to go deep. Making peace with the fact that not everyone is your audience is one of the most liberating and strategic things you can do as a communicator. Because it doesn't shrink your message, it sharpens it. So where does this leave us? If this isn't a call to simplify or to pander or to ignore dissent, then what is it? It's a call to practice curiosity about who your message is truly for. To get comfortable with quiet rooms, uncertain receptions, and the possibility that clarity may alienate before it connects. It's about holding space for the audience who is ready and not shaping everything to appeal to the ones who aren't. This isn't a prescription. It's an articulation of a posture that you need to have if you understand the fact that not everyone is your audience. So if you're wondering where to begin, maybe start here. Firstly, name who the message is for, not just in broad strokes, but with sharp clarity. What do they care about? What are they carrying? Secondly, let go of universality. When you speak, do it like you're trying to make eye contact. In fact, make eye contact. Don't just look above the heads like you're trying to speak to a full stadium. Thirdly, pay attention to the ones who are already leaning in. They are a good indication of the intended audience of your message. That's where the work lives. You see, communicating with focus doesn't mean you speak less boldly. It means you speak more intentionally. The goal isn't to be heard by everyone. It's to be unmistakable to the right ones. Communicating with focus requires an approach that resists gimmick and reaches for something more honest, more layered, and more alive. The job is not to capture everyone's attention, it's to understand whose attention you already have and speak like it matters. If you're tired of speaking into the void, or unsure whether your message is actually meeting the right ears, Fathom It can help. We work with leaders and teams to sharpen focus, to find the right audience, and shape communication that resonates where it's needed most. If you've got something important to say, let's make sure it lands where it counts. Okay?